Dun-dun-dun. All right, guys, what's going on? This is Kyle Pursley, the host of the TruYou Unfiltered Podcast, and in today's episode, we'll be diving into a world of agency growth with SaaS innovation. Our podcast offers practical insights on how to scale businesses, streamline operations, and achieve success in an ever-evolving digital landscape. We explore strategies for improving both personal and professional growth while balancing entrepreneurship with everyday life. Today, we're joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Shaun Clark, the CEO and co-founder of HighLevel, a powerful platform that's transforming not just my businesses, but other businesses around us. And I just wanted to go ahead and say, he's the man. All right, Shaun, thank you so much for coming on.
Man, thanks for having me here. It's great to be here.
Heck yeah, dude. So as far as like, you went to Oregon University, right?
Oregon State.
Oregon State.
Oregon State. So I did attend, but I did not finish.
Okay, I got you. Because my follow-up question to that would have been like, did you ever do like cross country or anything like that?
I did. I ran cross country in high school.
Dude, so like that was like a big part of my life when I was like, I'm talking when I was like all through high school, from elementary to high school, and I heard that like in Oregon, like going to like that college was like you were like the man on campus if you ran cross country or track, because
I had no idea. I got injured in high school because nobody told me that I never knew you could get hurt as a 16-year-old. I thought I was invincible. And so I only went into cross country because this really cute girl next door ran cross country, and she asked me, "Hey, are you joining the cross country team?" She'd never talked to me before ever. And she was like a year or two older than me. And so of course my answer was, "Oh, absolutely." And so then, but I really enjoyed running. And I enjoyed it so much. I ran so much that I got injured my first year out. I made varsity, then I got injured, and that was the end of my cross country journey. But I've subsequently re-picked up running, but so I wouldn't know. I never quite made there. And plus, I'm a computer nerd, so I was just at Oregon State because it was engineering college, and I wanted to be there for engineering.
No, I love that because like I like the running community, man. They're such incredible people. I mean, you have like nowadays to do like this jujitsu, like mixed martial arts stuff, but like when I just remember that being a great part of my life. So when I saw where you went to
running
school,
is cool. I mean, my son's
immediately like, dude, he had to have.
Yeah, my son's into track, and it's just not like a beer sport, right? No, you're not going to get any kind of big, Budweiser's not sponsoring it, so you got to really love what you're doing, and so you tend to find everybody out there's just kind of nutty about running. So yeah, you got to, and you kind of be. I think you have to be nutty to like running. So yeah, it's a good community.
Yeah, I would say so. Just a tiny bit, man.
Yeah,
so
yeah, I get it.
So as far as, when, like, so you said you're still doing it now? You still run now?
I did a half marathon earlier this year, and, I'm not like, I want to be careful here. I'm not some like big runner person. I just enjoy it. And so, but I'm old now, so I can't run, like I could before, but that's all right. I run, I enjoy running still. And yeah.
I love it. Cause like, we're building a lot of times in like isolation, just with like building SaaS companies or agencies or whatever the thing that you're into. For me, obviously like talking to the audience here, like whatever they're into, it's just like, currently like we moved from a done for you service in the financial space and went to a software product for them, basically making it easier for them to launch their own ads and do their thing there. And I am so thankful for just even going outside and being able to go for a run sometimes. Like I have a couple of kids now too, below 5, both of them are. So you already know like what that life is like. So
yeah, that's a tough time. It's one of those, you'll look back on it later and you'll miss it. But at least for me anyways, at the time I was like, oh man, this is terrible. So I get it.
Yeah, man. So as far as the TruYou Unfiltered Podcast, what we like to talk about in the very beginning is a lot about your background and the stepping blocks that got you to, where you currently are and where you hope to go. And, a part of like my story, I guess you could say, is like, I'm 29. When I was 18, 19 years old, I lost my first clothing brand to Maserati. They had a trademark on my logo at the time, and I was learning all these things. Yeah, man, it was
a great experience to have at that age, actually.
Yeah, sure.
Somebody can come in and just rob you blind when you feel like you've done nothing wrong, and force you to shut yourself down. That is a great experience to have in life, so that you know what it's like, so that you sort of plan ahead next time, so you don't run into those issues.
Yes, yeah. And so that's kind of want to kind of see like where you started. Cause I mean, well, what I found online, okay, I did a little bit of homework, okay, here and there. By the way,
Yeah, GPT,
it
yeah.
was like I see Babcock and Jenkins, I see
Oh
Answer
yeah.
Connect, I see
Yeah.
Soulstruct, Blue Columbia Holdings
Yeah.
Incorporated, InvoiceSherpa, and then it was HighLevel.
That's
And so
right.
I
Yeah.
guarantee
It's
you there
almost
was
like you
so many
can't jump to
things.
the end, right? It's like, so let me think. Only child, single mom. Mom was a mechanical engineer, so educated person, had a really good job all the time. But, I watched the economy tank on a couple occasions, and I watched my mom get laid off on a couple occasions. And I thought, well, gosh, if you can go to college and get a really good degree and you can still lose your job for no other reason than, cost cutting or whatever, economic conditions, I was sort of like, well, that sucks. I'd
Yeah.
rather go out and find a way to at least if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail because I'm at fault, right? Or or if something is happening, I feel like I have more control over my life, and so that's kind of, I think, I didn't know what entrepreneurship was because I didn't have anybody in my family who was an entrepreneur, but that was kind of what drove me in that direction. And so it was always about my love for computers and software and its capacity to really change the world. And then how could I unite that with this? What I didn't know at the time was called entrepreneurship, but this ability to create businesses and help people sort of independently and that sort of thing. And so, but early on, lucky for me, I grew up at a time when software engineering was a very hot commodity. And so I ended up working as an intern at Intel here in Oregon for a while when I was in high school, which was cool. And then I got a job at Babcock and Jenkins, which was a marketing agency of all things, which
Funny.
was, but I had no idea what marketing was. And to be fair, they were they were a mail house, and they would send out postcards. But what was cool about them was they had discovered, now remember, this is like ancient times, right? This is like, like caveman fire times. They had discovered that, so back in the day, here's how it would work. You would like send gajillions of postcards out for whatever company, and they were mostly in tech, right? Hewlett Packard and Oracle and these kinds of things. But then you'd have like 5 sales guys, and so you send out like 100,000 postcards. Who do the 5 sales guys call, right? And what they had figured out was if they put a contest on a website and put a 5-digit alphanumeric code and say, look, back then it was like winning an iPod, which, that dates it, but, it was a big deal. You would send out these cards, and then guess what? You'd have a website, and people could go and register for the iPod. And then what would you know? The salespeople would know, well, wait a second, that person got the card and had the wherewithal to go to the website and register for the contest, right? So now I know who we're going to call. We're going to call those people because they're paying attention. And sure enough, it was very simple math. The people that responded were more likely to therefore exist, be alive, have some idea of what it is that they got the card about, and they would sell more whatever's, printers, software, etc. So I, as a young person, had an opportunity to do a ton of web development because they were always pumping out new campaigns, and they were very simple websites. Almost, you might call them landing pages.
That's what I was thinking about when you said that immediately.
Of the day, and they really were. They were 2-page, 3-page websites, and then a back end system that would measure, and their whole thing was bringing ROI to the process. And so these are very early days of trying to take web technologies and create ROI around marketing campaigns, and it actually worked really, really well. And they went on to but this was all during the .com heyday, and I was the only kid I knew at college who was writing code from his dorm room and getting paid to do it. Everybody else was like working at the sandwich shop, But then the .com implosion happened. Like Pets.com, like everything it was basically everyone. If you're not that old, everything basically if you took it and sold it online, it would work better. And obviously, some of that was true and some of that wasn't. And so there's this massive implosion in the market, and so I lost my internship at the time.
Oh,
and, yeah, it was a bummer. In fact, I'd finished all my exams and stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm gonna go to this kick-ass summer internship experience or whatever. It was a summer job, really. But and then I went to log into my email, and like password didn't work, and I'm like, okay, I'm an idiot, but not that. And let me try it again. Like, oh, I'm not that big of an idiot. So I called in, and the IT guy's like, yeah, you need to talk to HR. And they laid off 100 people that day, including myself. It was like 50% of the company. So then I was like, crap, now what? So I went home like most kids do, back with mom and dad. And I walked out my front door. Well, it's mom in my case, but walked out the front door, said, look, I'm a stack of resumes. Cause again, back in the day, old school. And I was like, I'm just going to door knock. And I was like, I know where McDonald's is. I'll put them at the end of the run and just see who I end up with in the middle. And it ended up randomly knocking on the door of a guy who was kind of in the midst of transition himself. He had this old school long distance phone business that he knew was dying, and he wanted to pivot, and he was going to pivot to answering service, which at the time was basically this big regional place. So there's all these answering services all around the country, these little businesses, and he wanted to use the power at the time of his long distance contracts to bring them together and consolidate it. So that's what he was doing. But up until that point, he had actually been doing all his advertising in the yellow pages. And I come in and I'm like, yo, dude. Now, to be fair, he had built a sizable organization that way, right? But I obviously, in the moment, saw the future. So I was like, look, dude, you need a website, and this is how it's going to be. Now, all this to date myself even more, Google Ads wasn't even out yet. Now, he said, look, websites, smebsites, that's lame, blah, blah, blah. But I had all this mailhouse experience, and I knew. So he said, all right, kid, you maybe you know what you're talking about. Go get a website done. So I got a website done. So then it was like sort of like yellow pages versus the website. And then wouldn't you know, at the end of that summer, I moved back into my apartment and Google Ads comes out. And so that is the moment where, 5 cents a click, you can buy any darn keyword you want. And, rinse and repeat 12 years of that. We grew an answering service to a $30 million operation, 500 employees, all working at home, by the way, which is a whole nother story, but serving 5,000 small businesses and having a huge office in India with 200 engineers all helping write software. So it was a really cool experience. And that's kind of what drove me to drop out of college, because I was sort of like watching that business take off. I was a junior, finished my junior year in college. And then it was sort of like, well, this is a lot more exciting. I can always come back to school later, and boom, away I went. And I never went back.
I just think of the movie The Social Network, man. I can't help but think about that. Yeah,
if only I'd come up with that quote when I did.
I know.
But again, I'm a little less bro-y, right? I was never like, oh, we should take pictures of girls on campus and have guys like thumbs up and that. I would have always thought that is kind of like a lame thing to do, but apparently people love that stuff. But yeah,
apparently they did.
Yeah, I was a computer nerd, so I didn't have a ton of friends. I didn't get the whole thing, but that's all good. But but yeah, so that was an awesome experience, and then in the middle of it turns out that was an amazing business. In the middle of that, which
company was that, by the way? Was that like on your list?
Answer Connect.
Okay.
And in the middle of it, we got so bored making money that we decided we wanted to go into the online women's shoe world, because this was when Zappos was really kicking off. And we created Soulstruck.com, which was an online women's shoe store. Now that fun business, no money in that business.
Why is it always like that, man? Okay, so yeah, it was cool to have a clothing brand and say that I had it. Mm-hmm. It was very hard to make money in that. Let me make perfectly clear.
Okay, so let me break this down to. Okay, I'll tell you the answer. So, look, I'm a huge Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger fan, and sadly, I used to be able to pass this advice on, and people used to be able to action it. I've gone to the Berkshire Hathaway meeting 9 years in a row. Charlie just passed away, and Warren just handed over I just actually got back from Omaha last week. Warren just handed over the keys to somebody else, so that era is finished. Sadly. But what I learned in 9 years of going, I didn't go to find out what the next hot stock is, because Warren he would always say he doesn't know. So if he doesn't know, he can't tell you.
That's a smart thing to do.
Well, no, I think it's very true, actually. He was very cognizant of the fact that he's not like, his thing wasn't, you can see the future. His thing is, if you know enough about the past, when you see something change radically, and you think it's a mispriced bet, you think it's swinging too hard one way or the other, you can take advantage of that situation. That's really where he's made all his money. But really, what I learned over all of this is the core tenets of business, they don't change all that much. And so back to why your business failed and mine did too is, at least on the retail side, is because models matter. So the model under which your business is built matters more almost than what it is that your business is. That core idea of, okay, I sell a thing, whatever it is, how much does it cost? How much capital goes into putting that thing out into the market? If I want to 10x the size of my business, what's the cost structure that goes behind it? And then what is the moat that I can build around it? I.e., if I sell clothes, at least you had your own brand. In our case, we were just selling other people's stuff. And that's what made that business so terrible. It was, hey, I want to buy this shoe. Who has this shoe cheaper? That's who I'm going to buy it from. It's just that simple. I hate to break it to you. And then in the world of brands, maybe you have your own identity, but fundamentally you're still, competing against many other people in a retail environment. So price is a very core tenet of that market in almost all cases. And so fundamentally, that's why that model is very, very difficult. And I think fundamentally very hard to break out of the pack, and even in the long term stay, ahead of the pack. I mean, you can think of really big brand names that at one point or another were on top of the world and then got just absolutely destroyed.
You used a really good term the whole time. Fundamentally, like there's always exceptions to the rule, and we know that. But like, generally,
don't pay. In fact, Warren would always say this. He would say, "Look, I like to step over 2-foot fences, not climb 7-foot walls." And his thing is, and he would always say, "Look, you want to play a game where the average person does well." So yeah, there's lightning strikes and everything, that's out there. You can be, the greatest athlete in this or the greatest brand in that. Like there's always exceptions. You do not want to bet on being an exception. You want to bet on being the average. And it sounds depressing and lame, but it's so true. I mean, this is a little less true these days, but I would have once said, being the average lawyer isn't a bad deal. You're going to get paid just fine, or being the average, middle manager at a company is just fine. You're not going to be great, but you're not going to starve either. Now, these things change over time, but that's the type of game, even in entrepreneurship, that you want to play. You don't want to sell something where it's like, well, if I'm 1 in a million, I'm going to crush it. Because that is a big bet you're making. And, it's kind of like, I think there's a lot of luck in things, and people don't give it enough credit. I always think about great actors. How many people have the same acting skill as that person we all know, but they just weren't in the right place at the right time, or got the right person to see them, or didn't read the right script. I don't know how that all works, but they just didn't get discovered, even though their talent is quite good. They just, fundamentally didn't go very far. Or even actors we know who got really big as they got older, but earlier in their careers, they weren't nearly as popular. Why is that? It's not because they sucked as being an actor, but they were always that good. It's just they didn't get in the right place in the right time till much later. So models matter.
Models matter. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Especially because it's funny too, because like I was telling you earlier,
every day of the week.
Say it again.
Oh, the average pharmaceutical company will make way more than the average clothing brand any day of the week. And that doesn't matter. You can sell the same generic drug as many other people. It's the fundamental fact that the model in which you ride is that the individual cost of production of the pill is way cheaper, right, than what you can sell it for. There's just a radically higher margin. It's way more scalable, all of those things.
Yeah, because like a thing that came to my mind when you were kind of diving into that too is like a lot of people, they get afraid to start. Like there's that whole starting period, and like they kind of get stuck in like that perfection instead of focusing on the 1 or 2 things that matter. And like, can you get to the average first? Can you just get to that point, and then you can like think about that too.
Gosh, I saw a really good talk, and I wish I could find a link to this, but I knew who it was. It was the CEO of WP Engine, and he said, "Listen, and he was speaking to software entrepreneurs specifically, but I think his point was really valid. He said, look, I think I could start any software company, and I don't care if I have to like cold call my way through it or do whatever. I think I could get to like 1,000 customers." And he said, so what you need to do is think, if you only get to 1,000 customers, you want a business that's going to do well and you're going to be happy with. And I think the same thing here. Like, one way or another, you want a model that when you get to X customers that you think, no matter what, I can do this, you're going to be happy with that outcome. That is the most critical place to start when starting a business.
Why is it, you think? Is it because like, in case like it doesn't go the way you want it to, you can actually see something through the
average is, they call the average for a reason. It's because half of us are going to be below it and half of us will be above it. And so if all you're betting, I think odds on, we can all be about average at about anything. The question is, are you going to be happy if that's as far as you get? And you really want a situation where if that's as far as you get, well, then you're going to be happy. Like, why set yourself up for failure and say, look, no, I'm only going to be happy from the top 10%. The top 10% is the top 10% for a reason. It's hard to do. So that's why it matters.
Man, I just feel the sports coming into me right now. Like, dude, I'm so competitive. I'm like, I'm going to get to that 10%, Shaun.
Well, and it's
Even
not,
then,
saying,
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
not saying that, and even if you think about it from this perspective, let's say you say,
yeah,
well, I will get to the top 10%, but I respect the fact that top 10% is hard and takes time. So that means you're going to spend a lot of time below the top 10% as you progress. So, but what you want to do then is for the time that you do spend below the top 10%, you want to be able to pay your bills. You want to be able to afford things that you want to afford. You want to be able to live a life that you're happy with. You don't always, it can't be 10% or bust, because that's a really hard place to struggle. I mean, how many of us can feel like failures for 90% of the time and hang on to the point where we get to the 10%? That's just not, that never happens.
I know there was definitely points of time where, like, there was like talking about goal setting and reaching them, and like you forget, like, there was a point in time where you were like, where you are at now was exactly where you were like dreaming of at one point. I don't know if I
Sure,
worded that
absolutely. In
effectively.
fact,
Like, that's
I'm
what
well
I
beyond,
think about.
any dream I ever had, but yes.
I hear that. So as far as we have two. I think we've covered 3 out of the 6 companies, man. Trying to
Oh
save my
yeah, I
favorite for
guess
the
Invoice
last, right?
Sherpa.
It's all good. We got Blue Columbia Holdings, we got InvoiceSherpa, and then the present day.
Well, yeah. So Invoice Sherpa was kind of my transition. So that was me saying, I'm doing this other thing with a partner, um, and I want to go out on my own because I think I can do more. This is kind of I think I can get to the top 10%, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, and also back to models matter. As an 18-year-old kid with no entrepreneurs in my family, I somehow, and I've seen other people do this. That's why I call this out. I've seen people come up, and I certainly did this. I came to this conclusion that, gosh, because I don't have this great background or connections or people in my family, I need to find this elsewhere. I need to learn. I need to find a master in which I can be taught. And so I sought out somebody who I felt like was a great entrepreneur and who would be willing to I sort of felt like I have these tech skills and things, and I can exchange them and give them value, and the value looking back to me is teach me about how to be a better entrepreneur and get to business faster. Now, consequently, I think that's a load of malarkey, and I should have just ignored all that crap and gone out and started a business immediately. And yeah, sure, there's some things I probably wouldn't have known and this and that, but who cares? You'll learn it on the fly. But that is exactly what happened there. But then because the downside that I ran into, and I see this with other people as well, is I got to a point where I was like, wait a second, I now feel like the equation is radically flipped. I feel like I am providing way more value than
Way
what I'm
too
getting
much
back.
value, and then
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
But the problem is to be fair to that other person, I came into a situation later in the game. And as a result, my demands for more ownership and more control and this and that, when I got a no from that person, I mean, I could be as mad as I want, but I don't know that they were unjustified, you know? So
Because of the expectations, you think?
well, and I mean, look, if you show up late in the game and there's already an established business and it's making money and it's this and that, and there's no risk there, then there's no room for you to like somehow say, oh, well, I'm taking a big risk, therefore I deserve a big chunk of the pie. So I got to a point where I had to say, listen, I have to leave because I need to create a situation where I have a lot of risk so that there's a lot of reward. And that was InvoiceSherpa. It was me going out and starting on my own a software company by myself, and saying, look, I think I can do this on my own, and I'm willing to take the risk of failure. And I did. And it was a good example where I would say I hit average. I got to a point where, yeah, I had 1,000 customers, but no, I wasn't retiring on a beach. I did eventually get bought out, but again, not enough to retire on a beach, enough to really move on to my next company. But I also made a lot of mistakes. I didn't charge enough to have any employees. So it was just me and myself and I, which can be made to sound heroic, but it's actually quite stupid. It means that I had to do all the customer service. I got to a point where I couldn't write code anymore, which I loved so much. It was a terrible model, but it was a great experience. And it taught me, hey, when I do this again, the heck I'm going to be doing this alone. So, when I started HighLevel, the very first thing I did is I went out and thought, well, gosh, who's the absolute smartest engineer I've ever met in my life? And I went out and I immediately contacted Varun. He was always better than me at software engineering and many other things, I will say, but certainly software engineering. And so I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this right. I'm going to find a partner and we're going to go at this together. And that's, how HighLevel kicked off.
Because you found someone who can like counter your weaknesses.
Oh gosh, yes.
No, we missed one. I want to just go
Oh yeah,
back
sure.
before we dive into that. When did you start a family during this time and start
Right
having
at the
kids?
start of InvoiceSherpa.
Okay.
And in fact, this was a critical section.
Okay.
So, all of us get comfortable. And while we tell ourselves stories, I think what tends to happen as time, especially as life goes on, is the weight of the past tends to hold you back from making dramatic change in the future. And as you get married, as you get as you get houses, as you get more responsibility, making radical changes hold a lot more risk. And you would think that having my first child, and my only child, but my first child would make that weight even heavier. It actually did something quite interesting. I realized that I was going to someday tell my son, you need to go for your dreams in life. You need to take risks. You need to do all these things. And I realized that I couldn't tell him that in all honesty if I wasn't willing to do it myself. And I realized that I had been really long delaying the inevitable. And if I continued in that line, I would end up fundamentally regretting it for the rest of my life. And most importantly, I realized I could lie to myself, but I couldn't lie to him. And so someday when he said, "Hey, why didn't you do this?" I didn't want to say, "Well, because I gave up, I quit. I wasn't willing to take the risk. Oh, by the way, you should go do that." I just think that is a stupid way to go. So that is what inspired me, honestly, to finally go after my dreams and take the risk. And I was personally willing to lose it all, if that's what it took, just to say I tried. But it was a very big burn the ships moment for me. But I don't know that I decided to have a child as much as I had a child. I mean, it takes two to tango. So
Of course.
oftentimes, you get into situations with the greatest of intentions, and you have timelines in your head, and you tell spouses and things, but inevitably, life comes at you fast. So maybe the timeline that you set, maybe that timeline happens. In my case, it did. But man, it went by quick, and I wasn't really where I wanted to be at the end, as I thought it would be when I gave it out in the beginning. But the reality is that timeline came, and I went through with it. But I still ended up realizing, gosh, despite all this, you just got to go for your dreams. And so I burned the ships. It was a brutal circumstance. I all kinds of lawsuit stuff and all kinds of angry people and pissed off feelings and everything else. It was traumatic, to say the least. But it was absolutely worth it, for me, just because I couldn't lie to my son, 5 years, 10 years later, I just couldn't do it. So I had to try.
I feel that in my gut, man. I love that. Cause it's like, I mean, I've watched, I think even like Grant Cardone said something about that with his wife. It's like, I'll do anything for you, but I won't give up my dreams. And that kind of just reminds me here even, and also like, yeah, like we're the examples, and we always forget that they're watching, and we want to lead by that example too. Cause like, man, you said it perfectly. Like, how in the world am I going to say do this when I'm not doing it? Like, practicing what you preach is very, very valuable to me.
100%, even though I think it's incredibly difficult. And by the way, it's not all roses and ponies. There's a lot of failure there. Even before HighLevel, Varun and I did an invoicing app on Android. We thought we were going to pay for it with payments. That failed. We did Service Pro Max, which was like a service management application, that failed. So there are a couple other. There's a lot of failures in there.
So then, what conceptualized HighLevel? You're starting your family. You have.
Oh, I'd already started it. I had InvoiceSherpa. I was killing myself. My wife said, "Look, you need to." I got an offer to sell. She said, "You should sell because you never you basically work 24/7." So I sold. I spent a year being like a remote employee for this company because they were in Montreal, Canada, which is where I met Ian, who runs our support team today. He originally started off as like my security guard. They didn't believe anybody could work remote, so they would literally put us on a call like this, and I would sit there and he would watch me write code all day. But yeah, so that's another fun story. But anyways, spent a year doing that, and then realized, look, so I said, okay, I can finally do something on my own. Did this invoicing thing, that didn't work. Did the service management thing, that didn't work. And then in talking to customers, they all wanted to make more money, And so Varun and I thought, well, how could we help them do that? And we came up with two-way text messaging and reputation management. And then we started selling it to them. And that was exciting at first because they all want to buy it. But then 2 weeks would go by and then they would call and cancel. And of course, we would be like, what the heck? Like, you saw the demo, you said you'd like it. And they're like, oh, no, we love it. We just don't have time to implement it. And to software engineers, that is like the worst thing you can tell us, because you're not saying like, oh, I need you to build this thing. It's like, I need you to create time. Like, you can't create time, right? So lucky for us, this is where we got a call from a marketing agency. And in that situation, we had a co-customer in common, and the marketing agency, we got on the phone with them and they said they saw what we were doing, and it was awesome because they understood it, but they also had time to implement it. So they bought it for all their clients, and that was cool. and then they hooked us up with like all their best connections. And this is how we got to Rob Bailey's mastermind, which was really the kickoff of our whole business. But the person who called us, that's Rob and Alex, our third co-founder. And, he fundamentally changed my life and Varun's life. I mean, we wouldn't be here without him. And, he really showed us that behind the scenes of all these great businesses and their success are really agencies or third parties who are really doing the work of implementation. And, I get it. I mean, I have some work being done in my house this week, and I can see that there's a big crew out here and they're working hard and they're doing their thing. But the business owner's also out here, right? And he's part of the work. And so it really brings home the message, like, how can he be out marketing his business while he's here at my house digging holes in the ground, right? It doesn't make sense. And by the way, these holes are really important. Like, they have to be dug correctly, and the city comes out and he has to get permits and all the things. That's important work, and I need him to do a great job at it. And by the way, if he doesn't do a great job, I'm really mad, right? All the while, all these other software companies are telling these guys, oh, by the way, you can also go market your business. It's like total nonsense.
Everything all at once.
Yeah. And so we're saying like, oh, no, you can drive and read your email on your cell phone at the same time. Like, do any of us think that's safe? No, we all realize that's nuts. I mean, some of us try to do it, but that doesn't make it smart. And so fundamentally, this is why meeting Robin was so critical, because we realized that the businesses that really were crushing it, and honestly, the businesses that would continue to crush it, would have someone, and you can call them anything you want, consultants, agencies, whatever, MSPs for all I care. They will have people who have time to not only learn the tools, but also know how to implement them in the same ways, honestly, that they themselves know how to use the tools in their own businesses to achieve outcomes. And that is exactly where we pivoted our business to that. And I will forever owe a great debt of gratitude to Robin for changing my life that way.
Man, I love that, because I started doing like the ads, the Facebook ad side of things, and like, let's say 2015, 16 ish. I got about,
and you're the first group that we helped, right? I like to call you guys the Facebook ads.
Yes, the app with conversations and being able to hold someone accountable, following with a freaking lead, man.
Yeah, I mean, this was a lot of people ask us, I mean, this is a great story because, for all the folks out there who want to be software entrepreneurs, this is what we did. This was the problem we solved. Because today I can be like, oh yeah, we have 4 million users. We're now bigger than HubSpot. We're this massive sales CRM and all this. And that's great. But how the heck do you go from, it's the problem with, not that I'm Michael Jordan or anything, but like, it's the problem with talking to Michael Jordan and asking him to teach you how to play basketball. Like, he doesn't even remember how he got there, right? And if he teaches you something, he would teach you something. He's probably a bad example. He's old, right? But LeBron James, or something, he's going to teach you something that, is way more on the advanced spectrum, most likely. But the reality here is we got into this by solving one silly, very important problem that all of you folks had, which was, hey, I'm running these ads for the dentist. I'm getting like the most killer leads of all time. They're a penny a piece. I'm such a rock star Facebook ads guy, look at me. And then you're handing over the spreadsheet, and then the dentist is like, you're fired. And you're like, whoa, what the hell just happened? Yes. I won the Super Bowl of ads and you fired me for it? What's going on? And then what we realized together, I think, as a team was, not just us internally, but like with our customers, with you, is the dentist doesn't see the spreadsheet of names as like a goal. They saw a person walking through the door as a goal, right? And then the question was, well, how do we make that happen? And then the problem was, it was like, well, somebody better follow up with these leads. And then, you guys are smart people. This is what's so fun about working with marketers. It's not like you hadn't had these conversations, but they don't end well. It's like, you'd be like, no, you need to call those leads, guy. And then the dentist would be like, no, you moron, I'm in somebody's teeth all day. You need to call the leads. And you're like, I don't have time to call the leads. I'm running your ads. And it's like this back and forth, right? And the reality is since the dentist is paying the bills, you're the guy who always would lose. And so we came in the middle and we're like, wait a second, we can automate this, right? And that is exactly where we started. It was just, hey, the lead comes in, we're getting out to them quick, we're turning it around, we're getting to book an appointment, and we're getting to walk in the door of the dentist. And now everybody's goals are aligned. Like, you're producing what the dentist wants, which is someone walking in the door, which is something they can handle or call or book or whatever. Someone making contact with them, they get how to pick that ball up and run with it. But before that, they were just seeing it as worthless. And we watched as we were able to radically make impacts in your day-to-day lives. And to us, that was such a thrill, because it was us really taking our skills and being able to help you guys in real life and be able to help the small business at the same time. It was an incredible experience.
Oh my gosh. And then the duct taping of other softwares, like combining that with the lead connector app, man, like, is that still like the hottest thing that keep, like, I forgot like if, what was like the key feature right now that keeps people like addicted? Cause as I'll say addicted, because keeping you on the software.
100%.
As I'm taking the service and bringing it into a software currently, it's like, there is a point of activation and keeping them on. It's like that's what I'm learning right now. Like, it's like all of that.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you're a business owner, watching a lead come in from Facebook, that's sort of, I mean, it's like, it's kind of anonymous in the sense like, oh sure, there's a name and a phone number and all that. But then watching someone like write back and say, yeah, I want to come in for the free teeth whitening, like that would light people up, right?
Yeah.
And then depending on how, honestly, it's really on the business, but if it's not a dentist because they have all these medical booking nonsense, but if it's like the plumber or the lawyer or the lawn care guy or something, have them booking on a calendar for that person to like come out and give an estimate for that person to come into the office. Holy crap. Like, if you're a business owner, that's like your dream, right? Like, wait, I wake up, my calendar's booked, when people come in and because the thing I think we all realize is we all like being something. And, if you're a lawyer, you like, I mean, presumably most of them like being a lawyer in that area. They don't want to be a marketer. They want to walk into the office every day and have people show up and say, hi, I'm here for your expertise. And when that happens, man, it's just an incredible world.
Yes. Focus, like just focusing on the one thing that your superpower is what I like to call it.
100%. Yeah. And honestly, and then the next challenge we ran into, right, is like, you guys were all service guys. And unbeknownst to you, you were just doing like this bespoke custom service almost every time. And sure, some people were a little more automated than others and this and that, but it all broke down to a lot of hours. And the reality was most people get this hamster wheel of like, they start from zero and they'd be like, okay, you got to pick your niche. And then you work real hard, you get 5 clients and you think you're on top of the world, and you stop prospecting, of course, because now you have to switch over to actually delivering the service. And then all of a sudden you'd lose a client or two. And then it's like, oh crap, I got to go back out and prospect. It's just this like hamster wheel of constant, like grabbing 2 clients, losing 2 clients, grabbing 2 clients, losing 2 clients. And there's just nowhere to scale. And so then you guys could never go on vacation and your businesses would cap out. And, everybody would be like, oh, I got 10 clients, I got 15 clients. Like, some people would cap out at different places, but that's kind of the story. And so what we realized was, the software is awesome. Well, actually, to be fair, I didn't realize anything. What I found was early on, there was this weird like thing where you guys would have to go buy another piece of software, put it in place, and then you would start to lose your clients to that software. And that's what inspired us to do the white label. So we did the white label and we thought, okay, that's the problem we're solving for here. But then a bunch of you folks who are super smart went out and started packaging up the software and reselling it. And when I started talking to you and you were like, oh man, it's amazing, it's really changed my business, I was like, man, this is amazing. And I'd be like, are you selling it like SaaS? And you guys would be like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
And the reality is, I'm a slow learner, but eventually I put it together. I talked to 100 agencies doing this, and I realized that that's really the key, is how this changes the business model so that you guys are you're still focusing on outcomes. Oh, and this is the other big thing, your price points. $3,000 plus ad spend was insane for the average small business. And again, no basis at all in whether you're doing a good job. It's just the simple fact that a small business saying, I'm going to spend $3,000 plus ad spend on anything is like a no-win situation. They would cancel over the price.
They'd be battling against like their retainer to make money.
100%, because they would say, there's no way you guys could be making me any money at this kind of rate. Even if you guys were 100xing their returns, they just didn't have time to sit down and see the value. So this model just changed all these. Again, models matter, right? So we were able to white label it. So now the software became your tool, not our tool. You were able to charge for the software. That's a whole nother revenue stream. And then finally, you were able to scale a lot better and bring your price points way down, because the software was helping you get to those outcomes in a very scalable way. So we turned this hamster wheel into this radical scalable business, just totally changed the game for anybody in this area.
And so so after talking to like hundreds of us, what are you seeing that turns? Yeah, exactly. And I'm kind of being selfish here. Like when you see like someone who is just doing that done for you service and they transition their services into that software to get to an outcome faster to where it's like a fraction of a cost. Like I'm telling you, we used to charge, it was a 90-day package. This includes ad spend, by the way. It was $16.5K to a financial advisor. Okay.
Yeah.
We get them in front of people who have lots of money. They get 7% commission. They can make some crazy money from it.
I'm sure.
However, that's a perfect world. That's a perfect scenario, right? They need time to close these things. And so it's like, okay, we take the service that we're already doing and we're creating a software into it. Someone who is a service provider, done for you service provider, what are you seeing that they have to turn into to become successful in SaaS? For me, I've been getting more of a handle of unit economics.
They have to turn into a SaaSpreneur.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't plan
that's
for this.
That's hilarious, by the way. That's freaking perfect.
Yeah. No, I mean, so I think, and I think this is the tough thing with people. So the average person wants to do the absolute best job they could imagine. The fundamental problem with that is it's impossible to do that in most cases and make money and have a business. And if you think about product businesses, right? So like think about cars. In a perfect world, we could all go in and we could have a custom car, but none of us have custom cars. And the reason why is because it doesn't work. The average person could not afford what it would cost and there would be no scalability. But yet, despite all of that bad news, guess what? We're all quite satisfied with the cars that we have. They do what we want them to do. They make us look as cool as we think we should look. They bring us from point A to point B in the way that we need them to do it. And that's the point. They are positive outcomes. And this is where software can do the same thing for clients. It allows you to create what I like to say is an ROI positive outcome. You're still giving them for the money they give you, which is now radically lower than it was before. They're still getting a really great positive outcome. And because the rate is less, the model is different. You can now sign up 1,000 people, have the software continue to work for them, doing the job they need it to do. You can create scalable models around it. And stupid examples like, let's say social media posts. Instead of creating bespoke social media posts for one client who doesn't want to pay you for the rate you need to charge to do a good job there, you create the same social media posts for all the financial advisors. And they love you for it because they don't care that their social media posts are the same, first of all, because they often don't know. And even if they did know, the reality is they're talking to different customers. So it's the same value being given to each of them. And now you can defray the cost of creating those across 1,000 people instead of trying to get each person to pay for their own thing, right? And now they're all very happy with the situation. You're not killing yourself to provide the solution. Everybody is winning here, and you can create a much more scalable business. And crazy thing, because the software is doing it, you can actually do things like go on vacation, for example, right? Just weird, crazy things like that.
Sorry, brother. I had to change my hotspot.
It's all good. I think the nice thing about Riverside is it'll sit there and still record me, even if you're out.
That's hilarious. That was great. That was only for 2 seconds, but I caught it just in time.
There you go. Yeah, you're good.
That's great. Oh my God. But no, that really that's helpful because when you all were just starting with HighLevel, it was like you were focusing on one specific outcome to get them focused on. And I think what I'm seeing or understanding is because we are service providers, there were so many things we had to create in the beginning. And so naturally, our minds kind of go into, okay, we have to make sure we have all these components and apply it into the software. And then this is where the shenanigans will happen. We're like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time to implement this. We need a refund, or a trial is over. I don't have enough time to do this and that and the other. And it's like, bro, do you realize what you're getting? Do you even know?
Yeah. And I think that's the goal, though. The goal is I realize that human nature is such that it's hard to explain to a small business owner who is, again, out. I need him out here in my yard today. And if he's not out here, I'm wondering, where is he and what is he doing and all this. So he has a lot of pressure to be out there working, right? It's trying to get minutes of his time to sit down and say, hey, you know that big amount of money you spent? Let me sit down and show you all the metrics that show you why your 16,000 is 160,000 this month. They just don't have time. And it's all psychological, it's all mental, but it doesn't matter because that is the human condition. We are creatures of emotion. And if we feel like we're not getting something, we're going to act like we're not getting something. And that is exactly what we found with service providers. And so the way to get rid of that in business, the way to fix that is you need to not be the guy with a big target on your back because you're charging me a ton of money. You need to slide way down the income statement over here next to the phone bill and the power bill and that sort of thing. And if you do, you'll stay around for life. And that's exactly why the model we created fundamentally provides that for you guys. And you've done an awesome job going out and scaling it. That is exactly why we now have 4 million end users, because you're able to deliver an exceptional amount of value to your end customer without having to kill yourselves doing bespoke custom services like you used to.
Yeah. Thanks, brother, man. I appreciate that. Oh my gosh. Because yes, just going back in the conversation and like all the pieces that
Kyle's coming back.
Built up to
He's
that.
coming back.
I mean, huh? Say it again. Oh, did I leave? Am I still here? We're good? Can you hear me okay?
Nope. You're fuzzing out on me just a little bit there, Kyle.
I'm fuzzing. Hold on one sec. Guess who's back? Back
My
again.
ping test is looking good on this side, so.
Come on.
Unless it's Riverside.
Come on.
I'm not sure.
Come on.
Come back, Kyle.
Come on. Test. There we go. We're back. We're here.
Oh, you're back.
Good.
Dude. You made it.
Jeez, they were like, we know Shaun's gonna finally be here, so we're gonna just hit his internet today. That's what's gonna happen. That's what it is.
That's right. But the good news is we're gonna be in good shape.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Oh man, jeez Louise. All I was trying to say is like, now I'm happy that you all saw the gaps in our situation. We're able to fill it up, and also kind of taking your experiences along the way to kind of skill that up. So if you were to like say to the next, think about this guy coming out of college or high school and they're wanting to start an online business, what would be the 3 main skills that you think they would need to get a good start?
Yeah, I think technology continues to take care of itself quite a bit. So, I think the most important thing is being able to actually get out and talk to people. So, back to the old adage of like, what's the best niche? I've stopped saying I hate niches. The better way to just go with the flow. I love niches. The best niche is local. So get out your front door, meet people in your community who are business owners. And I don't care if it's B&I, I don't care if it's the local chamber of commerce. I don't care what it is. Go meet business owners. So the number one skill you need to know is how to walk out your front door and go talk to people, and how to sell and how to make the pitch. Because the reality is that I think the product, the fundamental product, the software itself, yeah, you'll have to learn about it and this and that. But the reality is, just imagine that at the end of the day, you pick one feature. You pick reputation management, or you pick a chat widget on the website, or you pick, and by the way, that's a feature. Remember, when you're talking to people, it's about outcomes. So you're not selling a chat widget, you're selling more customers. You're not selling reputation management, you're selling more 5-star reviews, right? So learn how to focus on outcomes and translate it back to features. Learn how to talk to people about that. But let's just say you take something like getting more 5-star reviews. You being local, talking to a local business owner, helping them get that outcome is way more impactful than them going on the internet, finding some software company, talking to some sales team, getting a bunch of cold emails, cold calls, whatever, right? There's huge value in being local, huge value, because sales is, I know, like, and trust you. That is exactly what it is, right? And to create that connection, local always wins. And again, I can show anybody in any marginally sized area how to create $1 million a year revenue business easily by staying local. And the good news is, if you ever dominate your local area to such an extent that you can show me that you have run out of customers, I promise you, you can still keep all that business and even go bigger. But the number one thing people need to do is learn how to walk out their front door and go meet local business owners and make the sale. The product itself will take care of itself. We can teach you how to set it up. We can even set it up for you, all these things. But just for gosh sakes, learn how to get out from behind your computer and go meet people, talk to them, understand, ask questions, understand their needs. Like, we got here not because we're geniuses. In fact, we're quite the opposite. We got here because our customers like you were willing to tell us what they needed. And then because we had that knowledge, we were able to go act on that knowledge, but only because we could talk to you guys and you were willing to tell us how we could help. And that is exactly what everybody else needs to learn too.
I love that, man. And guys, like, if it wasn't for me, just like at least sending a message to Shaun, this whole conversation wouldn't even be happening. So like learning how to talk to people and just like not being afraid just to reach out is absolutely huge. So I definitely want to even second that as well.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think that's the best skill. My 12-year-old, for some reason, decided he wanted to put a vending machine in, like, get into the vending machine business, which I actually out now told him I thought it was a terrible idea, but I love him. He's ruthless. He's like, I don't care what you think. And he did 200 cold calls through HighLevel and he got 0 takers, for the record. But you know what? He kept at it. And I love it because the simple fact that he wasn't deterred by 200 people saying no, I think is an incredible skill. We all need that skill. And that's exactly what you're getting. By the way, the crazy thing about this is it's always the worst at the beginning because you sound terrible when you're first starting. You're always going to sound the worst because you know the least, right?
Yes.
But that's okay. That's the whole point. Like, set your bar low for yourself. Give yourself grace. Be like, look, I'm going to suck at this, but the only way to go from terrible to good is to just push through it. And I'll tell you, at call 175, my 12-year-old sounded a lot better than he sounded at call 1. And I'll tell you, I think the biggest reason he didn't find any success is because the number of vending machines people want to put in businesses now are 0. Again, back to models matter. I think that's a terrible model, but his pitch was great. And so you take the pitch and you change the model, you change the product, and I think he'll do well. I'm going to get him back selling websites and HighLevel here in a minute, and he'll do great. But it's the experience of being able to get out there and be unafraid of talking to 200 local businesses. You will find great success.
I mean, I love that too, because like it goes back to like, again, like the people, going back to people's matter. Because I mean, I have a sister who they love to game. Nowadays, they love to game. She's like 12 years younger than me, and we're in the whole stream. I mean, obviously we're streaming right now, but like it's like we have video games, and then obviously there's a lot of, like I said earlier, building in isolation. And so like I think when people break out of that, and people start realizing that there's so much more opportunity than we actually think. And then 100%. Obviously, thanks to HighLevel, makes it a lot easier to build stuff.
Well, that's the goal. Our mission is to provide you with the platform and the products. You need to focus on the sales, meeting people, connecting with people, hearing their stories, finding out how to create solutions for them. Don't worry, we'll make the tools to help you do that. But that's the thing that you need to be good at.
Yes, I'm really appreciating, by the way, like the AI stuff, the conversational AI and the AI bots for sure, without a doubt.
Oh man, we're about to kick off the summer of AI, and you're going to love it. There's a lot of surprises coming.
I'm looking forward to it, man. You also, I think, so I'm out of Louisville, Kentucky, by the way, and Paige, I met up with Paige, and she just did a mastermind for you, and like in the community. I was like, it was good to see someone from Louisville, Kentucky, like just chat it up. I know there's a lot of people that do them, but anyways, it's just something that I think it's great.
Too. I think the local meetups that are starting to happen, and you're going to see a lot more events. One of our big things we're going to do is expand the events team quite considerably. And we'll also start having a lot more local meetups and a lot more local events.
Oh my gosh, that will be sick. And I look forward to it. And I hope whenever that email newsletter comes out and they need people involved, like I hope I can like put my information in my hat in the ring. Because
for you, you should hit up Wesley. Wesley's leading the charge. So you should reach out to Wesley. Wesley, HighLevel.
Dude, Kentucky needs it, man. Kentucky is definitely a spot for that. For sure. Well, hey, Shaun, I want to say thank you.
More than bourbon.
What'd you say?
I said we'll put you on the map for more than bourbon.
That's freaking. Hey, whoa! We had the Kentucky Derby just now, okay?
Oh, of course. So sorry. Yes, that's true.
No.
More than bourbon. We'll put you on the map for SaaS SaaSpreneurship.
That's freaking right. I love it, man. I love it. I tell you, like, Kentucky was very interesting because I first moved from Minnesota to Kentucky, big city, and then to like a more of a conservative like state where there's no professional sports. Like everyone's all about college sports and stuff like that.
Well, I guess I could see that. Yeah.
And it definitely threw me for a loop. Like when I first saw it. And then I think even when I started talking about like Facebook pixels in my local area, I'm telling you, they looked at me like I was a genius or something. Like I don't even know. Like I was Einstein.
That sounds like my kind of place.
Yeah. Oh, it's a good time. It's a good time for sure.
Well, I want to look like a genius wherever I go.
Oh my god, dude. I mean, hey, listen, you're making movements with this HighLevel stuff, and I am super like just proud of you with all the things you've been able to share and your whole story through this whole process. I know when you talked about just failures and pitfalls, like you said it pretty lightly right there, but I know the depth of it at the same time. Like I know that
100%.
there was probably times you wanted to like, I don't know, bite your phone off. I don't know. Like,
100%.
Something,
100%.
you know. So, anyways, guys, this guy, maybe I'm overselling it here. I don't know, but national treasure with HighLevel over here, helping every one of my friends, everyone I've ever met with, getting into online business, just like you, man. I'm like one of the first entrepreneurial people like in my family, and so to see like the progression, something that we share, means a lot, man. So definitely want to take the time to say thank you so much.
Yeah,
and
100%.
You know,
thanks for having me on. Good to be here.
Yeah, man. Cool beans, guys. Well, I'll see you next time on the TruYou episode of this Unfiltered podcast. Hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll be able to put different pieces of content across our different platforms.
I love it.
Looking forward to seeing you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.
And then I'll just stop.